Welcome to the Dire Maul North in-depth dungeon guide for both Horde and Alliance. As always, timestamps for quests, complex trash pulls, strategies, bosses and their respective loots, and how to properly complete a tribute run can be found in the description below. The northern wing of Dire Maul has come under the control of the Gorduni Ogres. Once a plague upon the land of Fairless, the Ogres now reside in the Gordok Commons and have taken the majority of the Dire Maul as their own. The Gorduni, one of the most brutal races of ogres, capture any creature they can and have them fight in their arena, even going as far as stealing hyenas from the gnolls to use as their own pets. Whispers from the Emerald Dream have driven King Gordok to turn his clan into a bloodthirsty farce. Yet, whoever can defeat him in battle takes the mantle as king of the ogres, so long as they follow the ancient rites barring them from leaving Dire Maul. Dire Maul North is the second of the wings in terms of difficulty. You can contribute to this difficulty by completing a tribute run, which will require you to spare all bosses but King Gordok, for some really nice loot and buffs. If you're here for a guide on the tribute run, skip ahead to the timestamp shown on the screen. As for our group composition, rogues and druids bring a lot of value due to their stealth. If you can't muster a rogue, bring someone who has engineering or blacksmithing of a skill of at least 200. I'd also highly recommend bringing a mage and hunter for their crowd control and versatility, and of course, any tank or healer does just fine here. The recommended levels are 57 to 60, but you can enter as early as level 45.
Talk to me! Hurry back!
The Northern Wing only has two quests, both beginning from Not Thimblejack found within the commons of Dire Maul North. The first quest Not will offer is Free Not, tasking us with killing ogres until we can find a key to free him. All of the nearby ogres have a 33% chance to drop his key, so this shouldn't require too much effort. Before you turn in this quest, make sure you've either completed his other quest or aren't planning on doing a tribute run, as he'll run off as soon as he's freed. Not's other quest is to create the Gordok Ogre suit, a disguise used to progress with the tribute run. To receive the suit, you'll want to enter the dungeon with 4 bolts of runecloth, 8 rugged leather, 2 rune threads, and lastly 1 ogre tannin. The tannin can be found on the platform above Not, found here, while the remainder of the items can be found out in the world or just bought off the auction house. Before we can head into the dungeon, we'll need to acquire our key. This can easily be done by killing Pusselin in the eastern wing. Moldar is the first of the named ogres we can encounter. You'll want to face Moldar against a wall as he'll knock away, which knocks you back quite a distance. If you aren't against a wall, he'll combo this with his shield charge, dealing damage while also knocking back. Range should keep over a 25-yard distance so he doesn't charge you if you pull aggro. The remainder of the encounter is a tank and spank. Moldar will enrage, increasing his own attack speed by 60%. He'll strike as well, giving his next attack more power, and lastly he'll shield bash, just make sure you aren't casting near him. Don't get knocked into ads, and there should be a cakewalk. Next up we have the optional boss, Stomper Krieg. Krieg is a drunkard, so the majority of his attacks are alcohol based. The ogre's most annoying ability is Drunken Spit, which will get the entire party drunk, increase your mischance by 75%, and make it very difficult to see for 10 seconds. His next ability is Drunken Rage, increasing his attack speed by 60% and his damage slightly. This shouldn't be too much of an issue, but be careful of the burst of damage. Range should keep their distance as he'll War Stomp, stunning for a short duration, and lastly he'll Whirlwind, doing area of effect damage. I'd recommend skipping this boss even if you aren't doing the tribute run, as he sells some pretty good buff alcohol, but doesn't drop very good items. Patrolling the next courtyard we have Guard Fengus. Fengus has the same exact abilities as Moldar, but is a tiny bit tougher. Again, he'll knock back, charge, enrage, shield bash, and increase the attack power of his next attack. Face a wall and none of this should pose any issues. Just be careful as there are quite a few mobs patrolling the area. To proceed to the inner portions of the commons, go to the pagoda at the center of the courtyard and collect the key. The last of our guards that we can encounter is Slipkick, found patrolling the inner halls. I'd wait to fight him at the bottom level near Not, where we can most easily position him against a wall, as he has the same exact abilities as Guard Fengus and Guard Moldar. One last time, he has a knockaway, charge, enrage, shield bash, and increases the attack power of his next attack. You should have picked up the key to the final door from Moldar, so proceed up the stairs and you can access the door. Exiting the hall, we see Captain Cromcrush. Cromcrush should not be taken lightly. He hits quite hard, so be prepared for big hits. To top his hits off, he'll also enrage, increasing his attack speed and damage. Once you begin the fight, pull him back into the halls. He'll occasionally use Intimidating Shout, and it's not uncommon to run into the packs of ads behind him. Fear Ward, Tremor Totems, and anything else that breaks fears here is incredibly desirable. Healers. Make sure the tank is topped off at all times, as he'll use a Mortal Cleave, cutting the tank's healing received by half for 5 seconds. This ability also hits quite hard, so be prepared for that. Lastly, the captain will use Retaliation, causing him to strike back at anyone who attacks him in melee. As such, all melee DPS should temper themselves for the 15 seconds that this lasts. As a tank, I'd recommend holding your taunt up until this point, as you'll have to pick between taking much more damage or risking the chance of losing aggro. At 50%, Cromcrush will summon 2 guards. These should be crowd controlled, as they hit fairly hard. If you can't crowd control them both, do your best to kite them, as they'll overwhelm most tanks. This boss can be quite difficult, but stay focused, use cooldowns if necessary, and you should get him down. At last, we have the king and his observer. If you're doing a non-tribute run, I'd highly recommend burning Chorush down as quickly as possible. Chorush comes with a heal, which needs to be interrupted as it returns a hefty amount of health. He'll also use Power Word Shield, which you'll just have to fight through. Chorush's primary damaging abilities are those of a level 10 mage. He'll spam Fireball, occasionally he'll Frost Nova, and he has an Arcane Explosion. Keep your distance if you can. Chorush also has a Psychic Scream, so a fear resistance is great here. If you're a tank and your healer gets stuck in this, you'll most likely need to use a cooldown, as Gordok hits quite hard. Lastly, Chorush will use Mind Blast, which does a burst of shadow damage. Once you have him down, we can swap over to King Gordok. For the most part, Gordok is a tank and spank, but he does a lot of damage. He'll sunder armor, so as the fight goes on, tanks will take more and more damage. Gordok also has a Mortal Slam, which deals 300% weapon damage and cuts healing in half for a few seconds. I'd recommend tanks use a cooldown here, especially if the sunders are stacked up. Like the other guards, he has a charge, so be careful if the tank loses aggro. And lastly, he has a War Stomp, which will just stun those around him for a few seconds. Gordok and Chorush can be quite tough. Use consumables and cooldowns and you should get them down. Before I jump into the tribute run, we'll need to gather some items. Make sure you bring Frost Oil and a Thorium Widget, used to trap one of the guards. 4 bolts of Rune Cloth, 8 rugged leather, and 2 rune threads to fool one of the captains. And if you don't have a rogue with 275 lockpicking skill, bring a blacksmith with true silver skeleton keys or an engineer with Sephorium charges. Alright, once we enter the dungeon, immediately go left and fight through the ogres. Approach the upper courtyard and fight your way to the pagoda with a box. Send someone to loot the box, and watch for guard Fengus's position as he does patrol to the chest. Once you have the key, head to the courtyard door and proceed inside. After a brief walk, you'll see a trap. Watch to your left and make sure Slipkick isn't nearby, and set the trap with a Thorium Widget and Frost Oil. Just be careful as the ogres by the bonfire will usually aggro if you near the trap. Wait for Slipkick to run into the trap, and then run upstairs and collect the ogre tannin from the crate in the corner. Head back down to where the trap was, and turn the cloth, thread, leather, and tannin into knot. He'll give you an ogre suit for this. Wait to use it. Head back up the stairs, blow the door up, use a skeleton key or pick the lock, and proceed forward. After clearing the mobs near the fire, use the ogre suit and talk to Cromcrush. This will send him away so the remainder of your party can get past. At long last, you'll have to kill King Gordok without killing Chorush. Cho is immune to crowd control, so you'll either have to off-tank him in the corner or just ignore him altogether. If you can accomplish this, you'll be rewarded with these amazing items that are currently on the screen. To top this off, each guard you saved will now offer you something. Cromcrush will give you a quest that I'll discuss in the next video, Moldar will offer you a 2-hour 15% increase to your stam, Fengus will give you 200 attack power for 2 hours, Slipkick will offer you a 3% increase to your spell crit, and finally, Krieg will offer you some various strengths that give you buffs. Otherwise, that was it for the tribute run and for Dire Maul North. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Before I end the video, for anyone that's interested, I've opened up a Patreon account. By no means should you feel obligated to contribute, but if that's something you're interested in, it'll be linked in the description. I'll be doing a giveaway there every video, like I already do currently, but for free, and you'll have access to some bonus content, as well as some say in the direction/content of the channel. Thanks, and as always, have a fantastic day.